Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Jian Yang.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to take a call in support of the free trade agreement between New Zealand and the Republic of Korea. Now, before I speak about the bill itself, I'd like to talk about the World Trade Organization and why it is important for us to have FTAs, or free trade agreement. Now, we all understand World Trade Organization played a very important role in development of world economy. Now it has 153 members. It is important for New Zealand to be involved in the World Trade Organization because we are a small trading country. We need a multilateral organization to support us in negotiation with some larger trading partners, simply because under the World Trade Organization rules, beneficial terms agreed bilaterally with one trading partner will apply also to the rest of WTO members. And also there is a very good, what we call dispute settlement mechanism under World Trade Organization, which is also helpful to small trading countries like New Zealand. However, we are now facing many challenges because now World Trade Organization has not been very effective in the past decade or so. Now, for many years, World Trade Organization and its predecessor, GATT, or General Agreement on Trade and on Tariff and Trade, GATT played a very important role since 1948 to 1995 when World Trade Organization commenced officially. Now, since 2001, when Doha Development Round was launched, we haven't been able to make major progress simply because there are too many disagreements or different views or different interests among the members. Look at this. Since 1948 from 1948 to 1994, GATT, or the predecessor of the WTO, received 124 notifications of trade agreements. Well, since 1995, over 300 trade agreements have been enacted. That highlights the importance of regional trade agreements or bilateral trade agreements in the wake of ineffectiveness of World Trade Organization. So that is why we need to focus on free trade agreements. Another example here to highlight the importance of free trade agreements is our trade FTA with China. Many members have mentioned the FTA with China. So New Zealand has a few firsts with China. The first developed country to to recognize China's market economy status, the first developed country or OECD country to conclude negotiations with China regarding China's entry into World Trade Organization, and New Zealand was the first to start free trade FTA negotiations with China, and also was the first developed country to conclude free trade agreement negotiations with China. So that was concluded in 2008. In 2008. Now, since then, our exports to China have risen from 2.3 billion New Zealand dollars in 2008 to over 10 billion New Zealand dollars in 2014. And our imports also increased from $5.8 billion to $7.7 billion in 2012. So our exports increased more than our imports. So the FTA with China certainly has been in our favor. So it's important for us to expand our market overseas, particularly in Northeast Asia. Korea is also in part of Northeast Asia. I'll talk about this later. So because our trade with China has grown so fast, so well, that we announced a new target for our trade, for our bilateral trade between China and New Zealand. Now, in 2010, Prime Minister John Key had an agreement with Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao that was to increase our trade from $10 billion to $20 billion from 2010 to 2015. And then last year, when the PM was talking to Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing, the two sides agreed to increase our trade from $20 billion to $30 billion by 2020. So that's another target. Now, Northeast Asia has become particularly important. China is part of Northeast Asia. Korea is part of Northeast Asia. Northeast Asia in 1970s, Northeast Asia accounted for just 10% of our exports. But now, Northeast Asia accounts for over 40% of our exports. So China, Japan, Korea, then you have Hong Kong, Taiwan, these economies. So particularly important. And that is why we do need to pay attention to this region. And that is why this trade agreement with South Korea is particularly important. We all know that South Korea is our sixth largest trading partner. Actually, according to some people, earlier this year, South Korea has become actually the fifth largest trading partner for New Zealand. So South Korea is also our natural trading partner, like many other countries, because we export mainly our agricultural products, while South Korea exports their manufactured products. So we have this mutual benefit to expand our trade. And of course, when we do trade, we also need to recognize the importance of other relationships or other dimensions of our relationship. For example, when we do trade, it also means that we have more contacts with other countries, and therefore we have better understanding that will help our tourism, our education industry, all these things. Well, we come back to the Korean FTA, New Zealand-Korea FTA. One particular reason why we need to have FTA with South Korea is because South Korea has already had FTAs with some major trading partners, which means that our products in South Korea are basically discriminated. So, for example, South Korea has negotiated FTA with United States, Chile, the European Union, Australia, Canada. So these countries, they have advantages in the Korean market, and that means more challenges to New Zealand. So this FTA will make New Zealand products more competitive and will secure the long-term future of New Zealand exports in the Korean market. Now, we have received many submissions, of course, at the hearing stage. I could quote a few. For example, here is New Zealand Business Council. They say the agreement overall is a huge advance for New Zealand in the Korean market and is to be absolutely welcomed. It will in due course eliminate the disadvantages our exporters have been suffering from through Korea's previously agreed FTAs. It will assist over time most of our exporters to increase their exports to that country. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.